the most powerful testimony I have heard in a while. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for your NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. Let's talk about this. There was a testimony on basically it was called Mass Shooting Survivors and Victims Family, and they were testifying on Capitol Hill. One individual, and her name's Lucretia Hughes, gave stirring testimony. She lost her son to violence. The implement is irrelevant. It was a firearm, but violence is violence as far as I'm concerned. And what brought me to this was I was here during, obviously I live in Connecticut. I was present at the first public hearing after the Sandy Hook incident, where they were talking about, it was House Bill 1160 at the time, if I'm not mistaken. I was there at the first one, and I actually testified at that first one. They of course had the family members of the victims come up, and one person who lost his son in that incident picked basically the same road, maybe not as in depth, but definitely was on the same path as this lady here at this testimony on Capitol Hill. And of course, he was shunned pretty much after that. He didn't get invited to too much and wasn't allowed to speak anywhere. After that, I didn't see much of him after that. But I thought it took a lot of courage for him to stand up there and say that, gun control is not the answer to this problem. Where all the other families did, as a matter of fact, 9 families actually went as far as to sue the manufacturer of the firearm. I mean, we're just heading down a dark road when we start thinking like that. But this lady gave a powerful testimony, and I'm going to go ahead and play that, and we should listen in, because this is amazing.
Honorable Chairwoman Maloney, Ranking Member Comer, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to be here today to address the violence in our country. My name is Lucretia Hughes Klukin. I have 4 children and 9 grandchildren. On the night of April the 2nd, 2016, my family got a phone call that would change our lives forever. My ex-husband answered the phone and let out a blood-curdling scream, a scream of pain from the depths of his soul. He screamed, he cried, he's gone, he is gone. Our 19-year-old son, Emmanuel, went to a party early that night. After we got the call, we was frantic. We called his phone, no one answered. We called even the police. I went to Facebook and I had to ask, is my son dead? I found out that he was shot point blank in the head and killed while playing dominoes. No one spoke up for weeks, and the killer was on the run. No one was going to snitch, but that is the street life.
That's a huge problem, especially in the Black community. There's another example of that. Sasha, I forget her last name, Sasha Miller. She's a BLM activist out in London who was shot in the head. And the government, the London, the prosecutor had to drop the case because there was no one willing to come forward to testify what they saw. These were talking about people who were physically there, who saw what happened. They were just refused to speak. This is a real problem in the Black community. But
words can't describe how hard it is to bury a child. I ache for anyone and all who have done the same. My son's death was a result of a criminal with an evil heart and a justice system failing to hold him accountable for the laws he had already broken. You see, a convicted felon killed my son with an illegally obtained gun.
A convicted felon should not have a firearm. Gun control does not work.
Our gun control lobbyists and politicians claim that their policies will save lives and reduce violence. Well, those policies did not save my son. The laws being discussed are already implemented in cities across this country. We have decades of evidence proving they do not work. St. Louis, New York, Chicago, Washington, Atlanta are gun control utopias, and they are plagued with the most violence. 10 more laws, 20 more laws, 1,000 more won't make what has already illegal more wrong or stop criminals from committing these crimes. And y'all are delusional if you think it's gonna keep us safe. I am a walking testimony of how the criminal justice system and the gun control laws, which is steeped in racism, by the way.
Truth. That is absolutely true. Gun control unofficially got a start in this country through racism. When Joe Biden sat there and said that the Second Amendment, when the Second Amendment was written, not everyone could own a firearm, that is actually true. Many laws were passed, and they were called black code laws, were passed to prevent black people from owning firearms. Mississippi, Georgia, other states would literally write laws that said, if you are a black person, mulatto, shade, brown, you are not, literally, you cannot have a firearm, and you'll be arrested for being in ownership of one. So Joe Biden is actually partially, he's true, it's true. When the Second Amendment was written, not everyone could own a firearm because of racism.
Have failed the black community. By the age of 25, I had already went to 18 young black men funeral at the age of 25. I have one black man in jail, one black man in the grave, and my young grandson gonna be raised without a father. And it's a curse on the black community and everyone else's. Something has to change. Thoughts and prayers and calls for more gun control isn't enough. How about letting me defend myself from evil? You don't think that I'm capable and trustworthy to handle a firearm. You don't think that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to people that look like me? Who and you who would call for more gun controls are the same ones that are calling to defund the police. Who is supposed to protect us? We must prepare to be our own first responders to protect ourselves and our loved ones. I am a legal, law-abiding citizen, and I don't need the government to save me. I teach people how to use a firearm. I empower others to look at me to understand the Second Amendment is their right. I am a proud member of the DC Project, Women for Gun Rights. We believe that education is the key to safety, not ineffective legislation. We support meaningful solutions that will actually save lives. We support the Safe Student Act, H.R. 7415, which would immediately make schools safer. In hindsight, at Parkland, we saw failure of the government at every level failing the students. Students saw something and they said something, and the school did not act. Police were called to his residence over 30 times, and they did not act. And finally, the police did not go into their school that fateful day and failed to protect those kids. We need to secure our schools, and we gotta secure this building, or like y'all do. What's the difference? We call on Congress to ban gun-free zones, fund nonpartisan firearm education programs like Kids Safe Foundation and non-governmental mental health organizations like Hold My Guns. And in closing, I claim that nothing in these bills do anything to make us safer or address the mental health crisis in this country. Despite living with the heartache of losing my son on a daily basis, I believe it is our God-given right to defend ourselves from any act of violence, making it more difficult or even more expensive for me and people that look like me and other law-abiding citizens will not make us safer. It will embolden the criminals. Gun owners are not the enemies, and these gun control policies are not the solution. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you heard that? Wow. Wow. Point after point, just hitting the head of the nail every single time. Now, gun control, and this is, once again, it's my opinion, but it's a factual opinion as far as I'm concerned. Gun control has nothing to do with crime. Because when you pass a law that only the law-abiding will follow, the criminal element has free reign to go do as they please. So gun control has nothing to do with the crime. And they're not interested with crime. Every law that you see them write and put forward is always against people who have done nothing wrong, who aren't out doing dumb stuff on the streets. Her testimony, I'm sure that shortly after this testimony, I'm sure after it finally, it went out on the internet and probably became viral, I am certain that she was getting backlash from all over. I'm sure most of that backlash came from people who look like us, look like her. I'm sure. Because it's more important to be on the side of certain party factions than it is to really engross yourself in the truth and understand it and acknowledge it. Agenda is more important. That's why, unfortunately, black people tend to give their votes to the Democratic Party without, 80, 90%? And the Democratic Party has done absolutely nothing for the black community in 60 years, 60 years. But I applaud her, because I'm telling you now, that to take that kind of stance in that kind of position takes great courage, because it's not popular, especially among those who claim themselves to be victims and, survivors of so-called mass shootings. I give her great props, and I hope she comes out of this changing some people's minds. She lost her son too, but she didn't lose her son to a gun. She lost her son to a criminal felon who had been bounced around the system for so long that they just pretty much ignored the fact that he was a menace. But powerful testimony, and it has to get out there, because we hear so much from the other side. This is so rare that we need to get it out also. It's unfortunate. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to get notified the next time the video goes live. I will see you on the next one. Peace.